All right, welcome to part 2 of the positioning stop video. If you remember, I told you this drawing was going to be difficult because it was a 3-view drawing, and well, it kind of was difficult. It takes a little bit extra time. And I'm going to be honest with you, dimensioning it is not going to be as easy as the previous drawings either. If you followed along with me on this drawing, you probably wrote a lot on this paper. The first thing I suggest doing, get yourself a clean sheet. Now, I have a lot of students that make this mistake. They put the dimensions of the drawing of how we actually drew it. Don't do that. Use the real dimensions of the real part, because when you go to make this part, you're not going to make this small version. You're going to make the whole full size, so you need the real measurements. All right, let's get started. We'll start on the front view drawing. Remember, just like with the other one, I'm very picky with dimensions. They should be 1/4 inch from each other and 1/4 inch from the part. Thankfully on this one, the top and the sides only have 1 row of dimensions. The bottom one has 2 rows. So let's start with the top 3. Mark out 1/4 inch away from the drawing on both sides, and also from the top, 1/4 of an inch. And then on the bottom, since we have 2 rows, mark that. 2 1/4 inch marks. Go through, and now remember, these annotation lines, which are the dimensioning lines, are very light. We don't want to confuse them with object lines. So, very light lines, not too dark, just nice and steady. Make them look good. There's nothing more annoying than a messy drawing. So we need to make these look pretty darn good. Do that. That. All right, so on the top and sides, you should have 1 line each. On the bottom, you should have 2. Let's get started. Let's do this side first. We're not going to use the side. Drop my scale. We're not going to use the paper that we drew on. We're just going to use this one. So I'm going to fold this in half so you can see it easier. Pick up my scale, make sure we're still in picture. We are. All right. So this dimension starts at the bottom. Oh, hold on a second. I made a mistake on the computer. These dimensions should also be on the outside of the plate. That is wrong, and for that I apologize. We're going to fix that real quick. We need a 2nd row of dimensions on the outside here. I'm sorry about that. In the future, I'm going to make better computer drawings so I don't have to keep fixing my mistakes. You guys don't have to keep fixing those mistakes as well. All right, there. So let's take a look at this. I want you to imagine this dimension is on the outside. Let's mark out this one. The starting point for both of these dimensions is the very bottom of the plate. So let's draw that out right now. Don't touch the plate itself. Draw it out and go about 1/8 inch over. 1/8 inch over this line, just like that. I'm going to go through. Like I said before, I always like to erase my lines as I go. Just keeps me from missing anything. All right, so this guy, the end point of this dimension is the center of our little circle. So that's where we're going to line up. Line up the T-square with the center of your circle, and you're going to extend that crosshair out to this line and go over about 1/8 of an inch, about halfway across before you get to this line. Go ahead and do that. You're going to end up with that. I'm going to erase my excess lines here so it's not confusing. Just like that. Now we can erase a little bit of the middle. Put the real dimension, not the one we drew. The real dimension. That is 1 and 1/2 inches. Happy little arrows. All right, the second dimension. This second dimension is 2.5, and the ending point of it is the center of our big circle. So we'll go ahead and mark out that end point right now. Right there. Stretch it out a little bit past. Erase the middle. Wow, that's not a good erasing job. Erase the middle. The dimension is 2.5, so that's what we're going to write. 2.5 inches. Happy little arrows. Erase the excess line. That side's completely done. Let's move on to the top. The top, we have 3 main dimensions. They are all going to be in line with each other. Basically, these 4 corners up here. So I'm going to draw lines that line up with those corners. We'll start at the left-hand side. Line up this edge. Draw a line. Don't touch the plate. Going up and a little bit past. As you can see here, I made a mistake. My dimension line did not go as far as I needed it to, so I'm just going to extend that just a little bit more. Line up that corner. Going to line up this corner. Going to line up this corner. And we're going to line up this corner over here. Remember, you want about 1/8 of an inch high off of this line. Alright, so now we can put in our measurements once you have these 3 tick marks drawn out. This one, remember we're using the real measurements, 2 3/4. This one is 2.5. The last one is also 2 3/4. Happy little arrows all around. There's your Bob Ross quotes for the day. Erase the excess line. We don't need it. Goodbye line. Just like that. Alright. Moving on to the side. The side, just like this one, we're going to do the same thing. It starts off at the bottom edge. Don't touch the plate. Go across the whole thing. Just like that. This dimension and this dimension are the same. So we're going to line that up because you might not necessarily know. If you just have one of these dimensions, you might not know what the other one is. So we need to make sure these drawings are as clear can be. Otherwise, your workers might get upset with you if your drawings are confusing. Just like that. We'll do the measurement in the middle. 1.5. Should look like that with arrows. We'll get rid of the extra lines as well. Just like that. Alright, the second dimension. Remember, this one needs to be on the outside of the plate. The second dimension is up to this corner. So we're going to line up our T-square with that corner there. Don't touch the plate. Go a little bit over. Erase a little bit of the middle. The dimension is 3.5. 3 1/2 arrows. Get rid of the extra line. Just like that. Now we're going to do the bottom. We'll start with this dimension right here. Lines up with the outer edge of the box. But we don't need a second line here. It ends with the center of that circle there. And I'm just going to go through and draw all these lines right now because that seems to be the easiest thing to do. We'll do the same thing over here. Draw these lines right there. It ends on the edge. We'll draw these lines. And then we're going to cross that second row right here. This second dimension we have here, it ends the same place as this dimension. It starts right in the middle, right where that big circle is. So I'll go ahead and do that too. Just like that. All right. Before I do anything else, I'm going a little out of order right now, but I'm going to erase my extra line so it doesn't look confusing. Because once you get a whole bunch of lines in there, it starts to get kind of confusing. At least it does in my opinion. Like that. I don't like having all the extra lines. It just makes the whole thing look messy. And that's not the goal of drafting. We want to keep these lines clean. Nice and clean and easy to read. Your line should look like that. 2 short lines up here, 1 line down here. We'll go ahead and put the measurements in now. This one is 1.5 arrows. This one over here is also 1.5. arrows. This bottom one down here is 4 arrows. All right. All that's left to do now on this part of the drawing is to label these diameters. So just like before, I'm going to draw some leader lines. Lead to the circle. Diameter symbol. Oh, I always do it the wrong way. I don't know if there's entirely a right or wrong way, but it seems like there's a right and wrong way. This one is 2.5 inches. Let's do the same thing down here. And draw a couple of leader lines. Get some arrows going, point them towards the circle. Those ones are both going to be 1 inch. And there you have it. That one's completely dimensioned. All right, let's focus on this right side view over here. We'll come back to the top in a little bit. Now, we don't need to put every single dimension because a lot of them are already over here. That would just be redundant. So we're going to focus on the ones that are listed on the paper. So for starters, we'll do this big guy right here. It starts at the bottom, ends at the top. Well, first thing we gotta do, mark out a 1/4 inch on all 4 sides. Or just 3 sides, really. We don't have a top dimension, just 3 sides. Do that. Flip this guy over. Mark out a 1/4 inch down here. We'll draw in some lines. Oh, wow. Did you see that? That was rough. We'll do that again. Just like that. Drafting square. Just like that. Just like that. Now we can do our dimensioning. Like I said, big guy right here ends at the top. So we're going to line up at the top, draw our line about 1/8 inch past, and it starts at the bottom. So we'll do a line over here. Don't touch the plate. About 1/8 inch past. Erase the middle. Five inches. Arrows. Clean up what's left over. All these, any extra lines that we don't want. Just like that. All right, let's focus on the bottom. The bottom measures our thickness. So we're going to line this up a little bit past. Just like that, you kind of have a weird H going on. I'm going to erase the extra lines we don't need. Clean this up a little bit. Now, you see here, we kind of have a weird thing going on here. We have two arrows pointing this out. That's how the computer does it automatically. You can go either way. I like to put it here in the middle anyway, because it's such a small dimension. Get some little arrows in there, and that's fine. You could also do it on the side like they do on the computer. It's really just up to you. Clean it up a little bit. All right, last side, these guys. So this one starts at the bottom, ends at that corner. Technically, this dimension would not be necessary because we have it over here, but we're going to go ahead and throw it on there just to say we did. It doesn't hurt you to practice. Starts here, ends up here. Erase a little bit. And the dimension is 3.5. Arrows. Done. Last one we're going to do on this view. Line up the top. Line. Clean it up. That dimension is 1.5, so we'll go ahead and put it on here. 1.5 inches. Arrows. That one's done. All that leaves left is this top guy right here. So same thing as before, we're going to mark 1/4 inch. We only have a couple rows of dimensions here. This shouldn't take long at all. We're going to mark out 1/4 inch here. And I'm going to mark out 1/4 inch on the top and another 1/4 inch, since we have 2 rows of dimensions right there. Let's do the easy one first. That just tells us the thickness of the plate. Oh, I forgot to draw the lines. After you've been doing this a while, it all kind of blends together. Like that. 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 All right, now we can do these lines. Just measuring some thickness. Okay, this one, it'll be kind of hard to write that dimension in the middle, so I'm just going to write it down here on the bottom. I'm going to put the arrows facing inward, and that's going to tell people that when they read this dimension, they are reading this thickness here, 1/2 inch. You are allowed to do that. I could have done it down here, but I decided to do it both ways to show you how that's done. All these dimensions start and end on the same point, here and here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Not sure why I thought I was going to line it up with the paper. Getting tired. Not thinking straight. All right, line that up. Don't touch the plate. Go a little bit up. Line it up. Oh, nope, over here. My bad. Clear on the end. Go clear up. I'm going to go ahead and draw these lines while I'm at it too. Each of these line up with the object lines that represent these corners here. So I'm going to line those up real quick. There. There. Alright. Gonna get rid of my extra lines. They're not needed. Yes, it's true. Okay, now I can put my dimensions in. This one right here is 2 3/4 arrows. This guy right here, remember we're using the written dimensions, not the real dimensions of that drawing. 2 1/2. And this one over here is also 2 3/4. Alright, lastly we have the top one here. It doesn't have to be centered. I don't want it on top of this guy, so I'm just going to put it off to the side here. 8. Like that. Like that. Alright. Make sure all your unnecessary lines are gone. One thing I would advise against, I did it so I could show you stuff, but don't put your drawing on top of your drawing very much, because when you move it around, it really smudges the drawing up quite a bit. So try to avoid that if you can. I have a limited space here, so I had to show it to you a lot. Try to avoid that. Once you're done, you can go ahead and peel your tape off. Top and bottom. Drawing's complete. Alright, thank you, and we'll see you soon.